I generally try and watch at least a film a day now.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Man.
Sometimes two.
Especially with that working from home life now, it is just. I not only am I watching more movies, I'm watching more terrible movies. Like not terrible, but films I don't care that much about. You know, if there's a new movie I really want to see, I'm not going to have it in the background while I'm doing admin.
Yeah, true.
But it's actually quite. It's quite free. You know the way your time gets so restricted as you get older, to the point where it's nice having the freedom to watch a film I don't really care about. I don't have to just watch films, make the time for films that I really want to see or are really good.
But also, that point about getting older, I have to like have not certain hours of sleep, but say like say I go to watch a film, and then it's like already, like 10 o'clock and I got work the next day. I'll see like how long the runtime is, and if it's like 2 hours 30, I'll be like, oh, that's going to be a late one. So I'll add this to the list. And I've got like a little list that I add it onto.
I've got a life hack for you. Really underrated to split films in halves over 2 nights.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's actually, honestly, it's really good. And sometimes like social media and stuff has fucked our brains for attention span. So it's actually quite nice. Because do you ever notice that where sometimes when it's a 2-hour movie, you'll be, even when you're really enjoying it and you're engrossed, you find yourself losing a bit of interest in the second half. You might get to that point where you're kind of nearly just waiting for it to finish.
No, I get you.
Doing it in 2 parts, man. It's not. Obviously, I'm not talking about if it's like an 80-minute movie. Probably not worth your time, and it's not going to work. Like, don't do it with horror movies.
Oh yeah.
You can't do it with horror movies unless it's more of an action, not an actually scary horror movie. But if it's something which is, you need to be caught into the sense of dread or whatever that they're trying to put you in, you can't just chop that in half. Like, you're not just going to immediately back into it. And that accidentally segues perfectly to the first film we want to talk about.
Yes.
You said to me during the week, watch Barbarian, it's good. Didn't say anything else. And I was like, I remember seeing it the trailers for it when it came out around Halloween this year. And I thought, I put it in my, I'm definitely going to watch that at some point box, but that includes films that might go back. The films that are in that box might have been put in that box years ago. Yeah, doesn't mean I'm going to watch it tomorrow. And I hadn't had any intention of watching it 3 months later. It looked good. It looked like a little kind of like, we're in a good time for horror and thrillers, and it looked kind of like, it just struck me as of that sort of current era of horror movies, it was going to be forgotten about. It wasn't going to offer anything particularly new. I kind of saw what it had on the box, and I was like, I know what that is. I'll get to it at some point. There's other films I want to see. You told me to watch it, and I respect your film opinion more than most people. Well, probably more than anyone I know. So I was like, oh, okay, this must actually be good, so I'll check it out. And fuck me, am I glad you gave 0 details as you just said watch it. What a trip.
I can't remember seeing a trailer for it. I think it first came to attention of me of like, when you read like one of those weird articles and it's like horror film is so frightening that people are leaving the cinema. Like, something like that, and I was like, I don't remember seeing a trailer.
A priest had a heart attack. All this shit.
And, I don't think that was necessarily it, but there was an article about it, and I was scratching my head. I was like, I don't remember seeing a trailer or anything for this. But now I have seen it, and you said what a trip. I do actually remember, because obviously we've got the membership to the cinema. I do remember seeing that, and now I wish I fucking saw it in the cinema.
Oh, unbelievable! Like, that was what I was thinking the whole time as well. So, spoilers, don't watch. If you haven't seen the film, please go watch it. It's on Disney Plus right now, or just nick it from somewhere. It's really fucking good. It's too good to talk. Like the other episode when we were talking about films we've seen, we made a point of not doing any spoilers. We're not doing it this week. We're going to spoil the film, so go watch it. Come back, don't come back. We'd like it if you came back, but
yeah.
All right, that's your opportunity. Now we're talking about it. This, like, I actually got flashbacks and sort of to the vibe of City of God and Squad the Elite. Those Brazilian movies that were coming out. There was a period of Brazilian movies coming out in the 2000s where they really had an interesting way of approaching narrative structure and story structure. And it was non-linear, but not in that way where, Christopher Nolan is flashbacking and forward flashing every 2 seconds. Even in just individual shots, and then you're here and then you're there. but in just blocks of the story. And it will be like a block from the end or a block from here, and then happens, and all over the place, really confusingly. But somehow it works together and it's just perfect. And this movie, first of all, you put it in that column. Then you have to put it in the survival, tense horror category.
100%, yeah.
Then you have to put it in the monster movie category.
Yes.
It completely shifts tone after the first 40 minutes, where it's purely just been a existential building, slow dread, scary horror movie. Then it completely shifts gears and becomes a comedy, basically, where Justin Long's character comes in. And then it just keeps shifting gears and it keeps becoming different movies. And then you get the whole segment towards the end where we see the serial killer. I'm jumping around, but if you've seen the movie, it doesn't matter. The serial killer who isn't the monster in the movie, but is like the humans are the real monster in the movie.
Yeah.
We see his whole flashback segment, which felt like a different movie, felt like a different director, felt like it was filmed in such a way where it did such a good job of feeling like a different film. And nearly every segment of the film felt like it could have been a different filmmaker making it. Like, how brilliant is the photography where it's over his shoulder the whole time, cutting to new locations. Sometimes he's in the car, suddenly he's not in the car, but always fixed in that one spot. And creating that sense of dread as he's watching that woman, and he obviously goes in, pretends to be the maintenance man or the water guy, so he can unlock a window because he's obviously going to come back later and kidnap her and kill her. And that line he says to his neighbour who's moving out of the area, and he says, like, I'm not going anywhere. And he fucking means it. He sells up.
Yeah.
He didn't say he wasn't going to sell, because he does sell, but he never goes anywhere because he is living in a bizarre labyrinth in the basement. And what a fuck. Like, it just blew my mind how good this was. What was your feeling? Sorry, before you say, but I just want to know, like, what was your reaction when 40 minutes in we first get the reveal of the woman monster, the 8-foot tall gargoyle, saggy, big, soggy, droopy tits, looking for a baby to love monster, comes out of nowhere, smashes Skarsgård's skull into smithereens, and then it just cuts to Justin Long singing a song,
driving in a open top,
singing a song which I think I read somewhere is about a woman being kidnapped or something.
Oh, really?
There's some sort of thing there, but
well,
like, how much did you feel? I just sat there going, huh? Like, what is this? Are they actually doing this? I don't even know if I'm happy they're doing this. Like, I was enjoying the movie it was 5 seconds ago. What is this new movie going to be?
My reaction was, as soon as they discovered the secret basement, I had a feeling that there was going to be a creature there. Like, it's not.
Did you? I didn't think that at all.
I don't know, unless.
What led you to think creature? Because I was thinking straight up. Like, I saw there was a
well,
video.
You thought you thought like did you think that Skarsgård's character was leading her down there to like murder her? Or he was making everything up the whole time to lead her down there?
I wasn't sure yet, but I felt like there was enough misdirection to assume if he is really the killer, then we're not going to find that out until the last 10 minutes, and we'll spend 50 minutes in the middle thinking he's not the killer.
Yeah.
Thinking he's definitely not the killer. But they just went a whole different direction altogether. But I appreciated the fact that they were hinting he might be the killer. And also, I'm saying this in hindsight, but I didn't know the movie was going to be about anything more than those two.
No, I know.
When it becomes so much more. So I really had no idea. I love the fact, though, that it really was just an accidental double booking.
Yeah. That was
on the Airbnb.
That was just ironically, well, not funny, but
also the fact that you see someone creeping around when she wakes up.
Yeah,
but he's not there having a nightmare. But then you're also like, well, maybe, there's other partners. You're trying to throw us off.
Well, I sort of that creeping around thing kind of led me in my head to think that this was something that isn't human because of the speed that it was moving. I was trying to like put 2 and 2 together. Like, I don't think someone could flit around that fast. But then when they went to the dark tunnels, I was like, there's gonna be something really messed up in here. And when I saw him like turn up, when you see him like come into frame, and then he was like all bloodied up, I was like, right, it's not him and something is going to come now. But when it does turn up and it is what you've described, I was thinking, I don't think I've seen a monster that impressive since probably like the Pumpkinhead kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very unique... It's just because she's so old and like fully naked as well.
How many female monsters can you think of in film?
This is a obscure one, but the mother alien. Get off my child, you bitch.
Fair enough, but that is a giant insect thing.
Okay.
Female.
As in humanoid.
Humanoid, female humanoid. How many horror monsters have big tits?
I can't think of another one.
The only one I can think of was.
Actually.
Have you ever seen Breck?
Oh, the one where it's like a Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch Project, zombie, occult, witchcraft in a building in Spain. You've seen it?
Yes, I have. Many years ago.
Love that movie. Brilliant movie. At the end, you see the girl who was possessed, which, by the way, I love the idea of zombies coming from sort of witchcraft rather than... It's always kind of like a scientific reason, usually. But anyway, the little girl that was possessed pretty closely resembles this creature. So that's only remotely close. Well, it's really close, but the only thing I can think of that is comparative, and the only female monster I can really think of.
This might not count.
Yeah.
But Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
No, that 100% counts.
Yeah.
Good point. Really good point. Fair play.
I'll take that one. But other than that...
But not visually not alike at all.
No. I mean, I've never seen... Well, to go back to your original point, I've never seen an 8-foot giant, obviously old woman with like saggy tits before.
With super strength as well. And she kind of... Like, it's funny how much... Like, the entire tone of the movie kind of changes depending on who's on screen. When Justin Long is on screen, it's kind of... It becomes a comedy for a good... Just a comedy for a good 20-30 minutes while they set up his character, why he's in the story.
Yeah.
Even once he goes into the tunnel, what was before such a sense of dread now is hilarious. And once we are reintroduced to the female character, I can't remember the actress's name, it becomes scary again. But kind of more or less any time it goes back to Justin Long, it never really has, even when something horrific's happening, there's never really quite that horror tone.
Yeah.
Like, he is walking through a comedy. It's like the characters are experiencing the same world, but in alternative universe of genres, if that makes sense. Like,
it's just because he's coming in like play the buffoon kind of thing. Yeah, and it's just
he plays a great dick in this.
But is the woman so giant as a result of, I don't know, inbreeding, is it?
Well, it
doesn't really tell you.
Well, the homeless man who's still living around the area kind of dumps some like important information for the audience. He says it's because of interbreeding, generations of inbreeding, which also she looks about 40, or he says she's been around for 40 years. So, like, was his babies getting pregnant? Like, yeah. So I don't really know with the whole inbreeding thing, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because obviously this giant, I don't think she has a name, does she?
Monster woman.
Giant saggy tit monster. I guess the reason she wants a baby is because she keeps having sex with whoever, her family member, and they keep dying. So she's desperate for the...
I don't think she's necessarily had a baby. First of all, I don't think she's having sex with him. I think maybe it's that actually. I took it as firstly, it's just a natural instinct, and she is kind of like, a sophisticated corporate lawyer still gets the sort of tingles of wanting to have a baby once she hits like 30.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
But this grotesque, like IQ, like a mental development of like a 3-year-old maybe, still is getting that natural instincts of, I want to have a baby. And the only video she's ever had to watch is the instructional, like, how to breastfeed video. That's all she ever has been able to watch. So she's clearly just obsessed with it. And I loved the scene where Justin Long's being nipple raped into sucking on the babies.
That was so bad.
Especially because we his character is introduced basically as a celebrity Me Too case, which we basically he's obviously denying it at periods, but he sort of admits to it, not directly, but the audience knows like he did it. And that's the interesting thing about this film is it has a whole underplay. It has a whole thing under the surface of looking at gender dynamics, but it's never at the forefront, and it's never annoying, and it never took over the movie to a point where it harmed it. Kind of like in Men, even though I liked that movie, it just was it was too beating you over the head with it. Whereas this film is brilliant, and then not till after I was kind of like putting things together where like, yeah, it really clearly is, because even the female character, when her and Skarsgård are having a nice conversation early on, after they've got through the weirdness of the double booking situation, and they have a conversation where they're kind of talking about gender dynamics, and she's done relationships, and men just stumble into, this is her opinion, men just stumble into things head on and get into trouble, but she can't help like chasing after him and trying to save him. She's a bit of a Captain Save-A-Ho, but for men. And that is what fucks her over the whole way through the movie. She should have just said, "Fuck off, Andrew Skarsgård. I'm not waiting for you to go back in the tunnel. You're going to get yourself killed. Oh, you're trapped in the tunnel now. Well, told you so. I'm leaving."
Yeah.
She shouldn't have gone back in for Justin Long.
I was thinking that. Why didn't she just leave the whole time?
She's a good person.
Yeah.
And doesn't want to leave.
I'd be like, fuck
also leave and find the police, but the police, she does at one point, the police fuck her over. But those are the kind of things where if you want to get like, be like the angry Star Trek nerd fan and poke holes in like those sort of things,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. Like, I know you want to, it needs to be believable enough to stay in the moment and take it. Like, I don't like when people are like, "Oh, it's a film about a giant inbred woman living underground." Like, why are you worried about that thing? No, you want it to make sense logically, because otherwise you reject it in your head. But was that enough to bother you enough to really take?
No, not really. But thinking back on it, like, if I was staying in this Airbnb that had been like double booked, I'd be pissed off about that anyway.
Yeah.
And then I'd go down to the basement because I hear noises, and then a wall falls down and there's like giant dark tunnels. I'd be like, just gonna fuck off, actually.
Yeah. That's funny as well. If she didn't go looking, then they would have been fine. Like, the creature wasn't coming up and killing everyone that stayed in the house. Because otherwise, like, who would be booking there? Everyone's just dying and going missing.
It did remind me of my Airbnb story, which is nothing. There wasn't a giant woman with massive tits in a tunnel, but I had never used Airbnb before.
Oh, yeah.
So this was in Brighton, and we went there, and like the guy comes to the door and opens it. He's like, "Oh, you're right," and then like he's still there the whole time, and I go to my mate, "Is he gonna leave?" And he's like, no, they stay with us. I was like, what the fuck? Like,
they started shagging then, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, it was very weird. But I don't know. The main point of the story is I didn't realise.
As in the friend.
Yeah,
and,
no. I didn't.
This
is the first time I used Airbnb. I didn't realise that you could book it so that it's cheaper that they stay.
Yeah, that happened to me in New York, and it wasn't so bad because we had one level and they had the level above, but there was just an open staircase, so it was just a bit like you can literally hear each other when you're just in the kitchen. But they had a nice cat which kept coming down, hanging out with us, so it was pretty good actually. Barbarian, fucking see it, is unbelievable. Sorry, did you have anything else to say?
No, I was just thinking about the film really, but then. Giant saggy tits inbred monster.
Mm-hmm.
She turns out to be like nice in the end, don't she? In a weird roundabout way.
I'd say she's pitiful. I don't know if I say nice. I would say also a victim of this thing situation.
Yeah.
You know, you could only be as mad as you'd be as mad at a wild animal, really. For say, if a wild animal kills someone you love, you fucking hate that thing. But you don't hate it the way you'd hate a serial killer. The father who's down in the basement and shoots himself because Justin Long talks about all the police that are going to be down there, which is funny because they weren't like necessarily, the dad didn't actually have to kill himself, but he is the monster. He's the human monster that caused this all, that consciously chose to do all these horrible things, set everything into these events into place. But she is the monster. Like, she is.
How comes he's so like fucked up though? Cause
he's old.
He can't get out of bed. Can he? Right.
So I assume she goes up to scavenge because, again, the old man who tries to warn the girl, the old man homeless guy, he talks about the fact that she comes out at night and she looks for victims that sometimes escape, any times that has happened, or she goes out and scavenges for stuff and food.
But is she? No, I'm picking questions again. Is she like the old man's wife?
No, that's his daughter.
Daughter, sorry.
His inbred daughter of a
Inbred
rape
daughter.
victim.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he
yeah.
rapes a woman way back and had
I
a
see,
baby.
yeah,
and
yeah,
that
okay,
girl
no, I
grew
get it,
up
I get
and
it.
He raped her and she had a baby and then this thing came out.
It's kind of like, in a real life comparison, like the Joseph Fritzl kind of... Not the same, but...
No, it is pretty like
Yeah.
it's a warped, absurd monster version.
But saying that, I actually watched this YouTube video about a family of like inbreds in
Yeah.
like deep. Have you ever seen it?
I've seen it. You sent it to me. Yeah,
Yeah, and like
disturbing and sad.
it's disturbing and sad. But the thing is, like all the normal people,
Got a lot of teeth.
yeah, the normal people around them, like who live like just like in the houses, they're so protective of them. They won't let
Oh, yeah.
they won't let like people go to like bother them. And have you seen the one when they take them shopping?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really weird because watching Barbarian, like, remind me of it. Like, they take them shopping and they understand everything that's going on, but they just can't speak. They're just like, and it's...
Yeah, it's really odd. That's a whole other podcast
But if
in
you,
itself.
if you saw that in like, the people obviously know them. Because, like, imagine if you was out in, like, Morrison's and saw that. Like, everyone was just like, hi, Joe. Like,
Well, you would and you would, like... Naturally, your brain might do a swift turn, and then your actual brain pulls your neck back to be like, "Don't be rude." That's clearly a really, really disabled person, or in this case, inbred.
True. And you're saying
Well, you would be freaked out. Like it can be, especially if you're younger. Once you've had some exposure to people in whatever situation who have severe difficulties, you just get used to it. But when you aren't and you see it in real life, it is shocking. Like it's not malicious.
Yeah.
It's just shocking.
And you say that about about an animal. I changing the subject. I watched Surviving a Bear Attack documentary, and a bear had like killed whoever he was with, like a family member. He just comes out and like mauled him. This geezer who's been interviewed years later, it's like face is all reconstructed, to just rip them apart. And he was like, "Well, I don't have any hard feelings towards the bear because they were just defending their territory." And I was like, but you do though.
No, you might not. I mean, it's a weird thing where I suppose the more intelligent an animal is, but the thing is, it's like having hard feelings against a tornado that killed your friend. Like, do you know what I mean? It's It's just nature. Like, it's hard to be that mad at it. And I guess maybe how do you even feel those sort of emotions as much towards things that aren't human? Like, it's probably not instinctual to do that.
But there was one Declan, like a lot.
Actually, I tell you, if you really want to see someone that's fucked up,
Yeah.
look at people who've survived chimp attacks.
Oh yeah,
They
their
are
face
way
is
worse.
fucked.
No, not just their face.
Their
like
fingers
chimps,
ripped off.
Yeah, chimps know what to go. Like, they're not like, let me just bite into a random part of your body like a normal animal. I'm gonna rip off your dick and then bite all your fingers and thumbs off, then suck out your eyeballs and then maybe your tongue, and then I'll start eating you.
That's
Like it is horrendous.
But most of these, there was like 4 different stories, and most of these bears were attacking because they were starving. But there was one that had loads of food, and it just, funny enough, killed a human before, and it actually got the taste of like human like flesh, and it just went mad.
Because it's like
just going on a rampage.
People talk about why most sharks never attack a human, and if they do, it's because they think you're a seal. It's because if they see someone and they're like, "What is that?" They're not gonna. Most animals don't take a chance on it.
True, yeah.
So,
But Barbarian, fucking
brilliant.
incredible.
Check that out.
I would think. Well, we're in 2023 now, obviously, but I got to put Barbarian maybe in my top 10 list of. I don't know whereabouts.
Can't remember the last time I saw an as wild, crazy horror movie. Brilliant.
In terms of originality, I'll put it as number 1 of anything
unbelievable.
I've seen last year. But yeah, easy recommendation. Just one that randomly come up in my searches when I'm going through my streaming apps. It's called it's actually called Come On, Come On.
I think I heard it.
And it's Joaquin Phoenix. For some reason, I'm on a weird Joaquin Phoenix
Fucking love
vibe. And he's a photographer. It's all in black and white.
Oh, is this where he's got a young kid?
Yeah.
I really want to see this.
Yeah, he's a photographer, and he's got to look after his young nephew because his sister is having some problems in a relationship and has to go off. It's just like one of those films where nothing really happens, but it's just about his relationship evolving with the little kid.
Love that. And why can't there be more films like that?
And
Well, I suppose it feels like there is starting to be more films like that.
And it's just like, you're not in it for the plot at all, but it's just beautiful in its whole black and white vibe. And when they're going around New York and stuff, it's just a really nice time of your 2 hours kind of thing. So.
Oh, I'll check that out.
Yeah,
that
check
sounds
it out.
I
Check it out.
love those sort of movies. We've spoken about it before. Like there's that Adam Driver movie.
Yeah, oh, that one's
I can't remember
brilliant.
the name. He's a
Patterson.
bus driver.
Yeah,
There's The Straight Story, which obviously was ages ago. It came out
Fantastic,
back in
yeah.
the 2000s. But I love films where it's just a slice of life. Like, why the fuck do we have to still be doing the 3-act structure?
no,
Like, why?
I mean,
I know a lot of movies don't do that, and we talked about some earlier that don't, but it's just like, why are we having to be stay in that box? Like, I know it has its merits, or otherwise it wouldn't have been the main defining storytelling art, but it's just like, I love that. Like, I love just you're getting a slice of someone's life,
Yeah.
and it's calm and gentle, and it doesn't need to go anywhere or start anywhere necessarily.
yeah, I think it depends on how you feel, because certain times you do go for the cinema for the whole big shebang. Do you know what I mean? The whole, unrealistic explosions, action hero
Yeah.
kind of thing. But that is most of the time, if anything. It's so nice to have those rare, like After Sun, those rare ones where it really is about nothing and just the performance and the relationships between the protagonists, which is great.
Another great example, After Sun. So maybe those
Coming back,
films are
yeah.
becoming more acceptable. I'd love it if they did. I saw The Swimmers, a film on Netflix
Yes.
about the Syrian refugees. And have you seen it?
I've seen it come up. It's definitely on my list.
It's fucking good, man.
Yeah.
It's just a really well done film. Film of kind of two halves. There's the first half where you first see the war breaking out in Syria, and they leave and they're on their migrant trail, which is really interesting. And then the second half is a very different film. It's where, they make it to Germany, and then she starts swimming again, and she gets to the Olympics and all that. Kind of, I didn't... Usually films like that, where it's very split down the middle, you have a favourite part. It's kind of like Full Metal Jacket. A lot of people always say, oh, it's only the first half's good, which I never really got. I love the second half of that film. I actually prefer the second half once they're in Vietnam. But it's not like I didn't have a favourite. A lot of time you do in those sort of movies, but I really didn't have a favourite. Like the migrant trail stuff is so... Firstly, it's just fascinating to actually get... I know it's not a movie, but it's not a documentary, but to get an insight into what that's actually like, and all the ins and outs, and the people you have to bribe, and the gangsters who maybe they'll get you across, maybe they'll just drive you out in the middle of nowhere and leave you there and fuck you over, and trying to make it, and what it's like in Syria. That's fascinating. But then it kicks you in the dick. It kicks these two little girls that you love in the fucking pussies, like time and time after again, fucking them over. So once they get to Germany, and then you get to just see things starting to go well, not like it goes well straight away, but you see, usually these sort of films, they don't spend an hour or even the majority of the film on once things are getting better. That's like maybe the last 5 minutes. This, you get to enjoy her life turning around and things getting better, and eventually getting to the Olympics and actually winning gold as a swimmer as part of the newly set up refugee team at Rio.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful. Like, you really buy into it. And one thing, like, the two actresses playing the Syrian sisters are gorgeous. Usually, always in biopics, the actresses playing them are better looking than the real people. So obviously, when you watch a true story, you always do a little Google, like, what did they lie about? What was not true? What did they actually look like? All the actors and actresses. And they're fitter in real life.
Really?
Like, they are, especially the girl who actually won the medal is, like, shockingly beautiful.
Really?
And the other sister's beautiful, and she's actually possibly facing charges. She was arrested because she went back. One sister became an Olympic medalist. The other sister went back to
Syria.
went back to Greece, or basically the front line of where the migrants are arriving, to work with a charity, helping them out and saving them. When they just are in a raft that might sink, saving them. And she and a few other activists actually got arrested, detained for 100 days, I think, and then released, but possibly still facing charges for human trafficking, which is because they
Help
save some people.
Yeah.
Obviously, just a thing of
Bullshit, man.
it was bullshit, complete bullshit. But I agree, it looks like complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Wrong. So hopefully they get away with it and that's cleared. But yeah, really good film. Not sad enough to actually bum you out.
Yeah.
It's actually like the scenes where it's grim and it's horrible and they're going through the migrant trail. I'd say it's more entertaining than sad. Like, it's not trying to hit you with the sadness, and there's a lot of scenes of people coming together under those circumstances to keep your mood up during it and keep you going. So yeah, it's not a bummer movie. It is entertaining. Like it's good.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that because it is on my list because you recommended it. Much like Barbarian, I take your opinions into high.
Not as good as Barbarian.
No, I know, but
Okay.
yeah, I take your opinions into high regard about films, and it's been on my list, but I was kind of dodging it just for the thing that you've cleared. Like I was kind of psyching myself up to it because I wasn't sure whether it would bum me up.
Like, let me put it this way: I was horribly hungover, and I was fine.
Okay, all right, I'll be cool then.
Other film I saw was Synchronic. So I was just flipping through Netflix. You know, sometimes, like we said earlier, sometimes you just want a shite movie. Not too shite. I wanted to just, let me just put on a crappy horror movie. Sophie's out of the house, so she's not going to get scared and ask me to turn it off 20 minutes in. So I started watching this film called Synchronic, which is about paramedics who are working in this messed up part of some American city, I'm not sure where. And there's a new drug on the street, artificially made drug, which is causing people to completely freak out and hallucinate, and a lot of people are disappearing. It's kind of getting compared in the media, in the movie, to bath salts.
Oh yeah,
those back in the day. And it's these two paramedics who are just noticing suddenly this new surge in victims of it. But then we see from the perspective of the people taking it, it makes you not only hallucinate, but hallucinate things that seem to actually then physically happen. They hallucinate, for instance, I don't know, an axe murderer, and the paramedics arrive and they have axe wounds that have killed them.
Right.
As you go on further into the movie, we realise that it's literally momentarily pushing you to other periods of time in the same spot on Earth, wherever you're experiencing the time hallucination, if you'd call it. Pretty cool. Cool concept. Cool tone they're going for in the opening. And I was kind of like, okay, the special effects were, clearly it was low budget, but pretty good. Like clearly there was some talented people working with a low budget, getting some quite good things. Really looks bad in certain times, but generally in the opening 20 minutes, good effects. That sold it. So I was like, okay, this is giving me proper Hunter S. Thompson / Philip K. Dick's A Scanner Darkly vibes. I'm really liking this. And the movie just ends up being awful. It's awfully acted. The script is awful. The character's awfully written. Where it goes with it and tries to, like, you know, it has its concept, but then you have to then actually go somewhere with the movie, and where it goes ends up being just stupid and not good. And that there's I can't remember the names, but they're actors that you see in other stuff where they've been good, but they're awful in this. So I'm assuming that usually when that's the case, it's bad writing, bad directing.
Okay.
Not the actor's fault. So it's a shame. But a really cool concept. Like there's moments where he's literally accidentally he's testing the drug out in different parts of his house in different spots, and then writing down, because whatever spot you're in, say it might send you back to the Ice Age.
Yeah.
If you go 2 feet to the right, you might be in the Tudor times.
Oh right.
And he starts making a note all around his house of like, and taping it down with notes saying this is
that
the
is
different
pretty
areas.
cool, actually.
Yeah, cool concept. Awful execution. Awful where they go with it. Awfully made. But really cool concept. It's nearly what, if you really have time to kill and you want it just something on in the background, then it may be worth a watch, just to kind of like be like, oh, this could have been good.
I wonder if there's ever been something the other way around where it's a very bad concept but very good execution.
Oh, that's a good one, actually. Well, it's kind of hard because you've got to actually because if it's been well executed, you like the movie, so you've got to try and like, because arguably The Fly is a ridiculous concept.
Oh yeah.
But wonderfully executed.
Do you know in like on Netflix they have like different categories, and one of them's like not uncut gems, or like hidden gems, yeah. So there was this one called Caliber.
Okay.
And basically what it is, and again this is a bit like Barbarian, I'm not going to actually spoil what happens in it, because I think you need to go in this without knowing what happens in it. But essentially what it is it's two Scottish friends, and they're on a stag do, I think, and they go hunting in remote Scotland. Right. I won't ruin anything what happens then, but what I can say is, just to make you guys check it out, to give it a watch, I can compare it to a British Deliverance.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right, I'm one over.
Yes, it's very.
What's it called? Caliber.
Caliber. It's called Caliber because a caliber bullet. Do you know what I mean?
You just reminded me, actually. There was another film I finally got around to seeing after wanting to watch it for It came out in 2008, so 14 years. Doomsday, by the director of The Descent and Dog Soldiers.
Oh, really?
It was his third film. It was his, basically, after The Descent actually made a load of money with a bigger budget, and it was kind of like his he had 2 successes now in a row. He finally got for him a big budget movie, and it basically it is Mad Max set in Scotland.
Oh.
But the rest of the world is normal. There was a huge virus that started killing loads of people. It was in Scotland, so they created a giant wall around all of Scotland, blocked off, had naval ships shooting any boats that were trying to leave around the seas, and basically Scotland was completely cordoned off, and everyone is assumed dead. But they have sentry posts that automated machine guns that immediately shoot anything or anyone that tries to come near it. But no one's been seen in Scotland for years as a result. But they notice on satellites that there's starting to be people re-entering the city. So they're like, oh, people must have survived, so some people must be immune. The virus that was like, if it got out, was going to kill the whole population, breaks out again in a small place in London. So they start freaking out. They put all of London on lockdown. No one can get out. But they're also like, well, we need to go into Scotland to try and find a cure, or find these people that are immune, figure out how they've survived, bring them out and try and make a cure out of that. We get a chick who's like the main action star, and a crack team of SAS type dudes from the future, whatever it is, going into Scotland, which has basically now become Mad Max territory. And we have 2 warring groups. One, which is led by Malcolm McDowell, who are people that have basically gone back to the medieval times, got away with technology, and they're living like suits of armor and living like feudal times. And then this other group of people who are basically insane Mad Max punk rockers who go around on cars and
it's always
with
them.
Punk hair and tattoos
it's
and
always
stuff.
The dreaded punks.
And they're all cannibals and they're all crazy. And the film is a lot of fun. The thing that kind of fucks it over is the fact that they tried to make £100 million budget movie for like 30 million. And in a lot of ways it pays off, but when they really try and get ambitious in a moment, like there's a Mad Max Fury Road-esque car chase at the end where they're getting chased by all the punks, and they've all got these crazy vehicles and they're climbing up and trying to jump into their car. Obviously influenced by Mad Max, but must have been an influence also on Mad Max Fury Road, I'm assuming. But imagine that, but a shitty English version.
Is it worth watching?
It's worth watching. It's flawed and quite bad. And to be honest, in the ways it's bad, it's quite shocking where, first of all, it just doesn't go anywhere with the concept. Like he said, the original inspiration, he just had this image in his head of a martial artist with a gun facing off against a knight on a horse. And that is, you can see how that inspired what eventually became the film. But give me some proper battles. Give me some wars between the punks and the evil people. Give me some, like, none of that ever really comes. It's quite disappointing where they go with it. And the characters, like Malcolm McDowell shows up and he's awesome. But they don't really give him anything to do. Don't give him too much screen time. And Bob Hoskins is like the gruff head of the police who's working from HQ back in London. And he's awful when he's on screen. And Bob Hoskins is not awful.
Now, this just reminds me of, and I always forget this film's name, but I do watch it whenever it comes on because it is like this film. What is this film where they're in like London or something and dragons exist?
Oh. I can't actually... Rain on Me. No,
Rain of Fire. Yeah.
I love it.
It's like that. But I really like it. I'm like, this is such a cool idea, but it's really... It's not shit, but it's really not good.
Interesting as well to see Matthew McConaughey in an early... Before he even was in the rom-com stage of his career. Yeah. Really early. And the best thing about that film is when he does the impossible million-mile jump with the axe. He literally jumps like 200-300 metres through the air.
But I really like it. It's not a good film at all, but I just like it.
It's good. Like, I don't even... Like, it's stupid in parts, but how smart do you want that sort of movie to be? Like, it's a dragon film. And it's pretty grounded. Like, you have an amazing cast. You got Matthew McConaughey. You got... What's his name? Beat up his mum and sister and amazing actor, Batman. Christian Bell.
Yeah.
Like, the cast is great.
Yeah, I forgot Bell was in it. Actually.
And it's quite... It goes for... It grounds it enough in the places where you want it to be grounded. Like, when it becomes action, it's really dumb and silly.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
No.
But it grounds it enough. It tries to make it like a real thing of, like, these animals are a real species. And it's, it's a post-apocalyptic World with Dragons in England. Like, that's just such an
Yeah.
obscure, rare sort of movie.
Like the bits where it weren't action, of like how they're showing how they're like underground and like surviving, it was actually really good.
Really good,
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's Neil Marshall, isn't it?
Neil Marshall, yeah.
I think he's actually got a new film coming out.
It's going to be shit. He went mental on the set of Hellboy.
Yeah, it's not been widely publicised, but
It's in Afghanistan, that one.
yeah, I saw his Instagram and he had like uploaded a poster of it.
Yeah, starring his new missus. He kind of went insane and started dating the actress that he was in Hellboy when he was making it, and just stopped showing up to set and started pitching the horrified movie studio films that his girlfriend could be in, and he just kind of like went pussy crazy and like fucking just ruined his whole career.
But I'll watch it just simply because of the Descent and Dog Soldiers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I hope he like stops being mental and
Yeah,
keeps making
yeah.
amazing films, because I love Neil Marshall. I love the idea of a monster movie set in Afghanistan.
No, that does sound cool.
That sounds
yeah.
great,
Yeah.
man.
Well, talking about upcoming films, Avatar 2.
Yeah, Avatar 2. Do you know what? I was thinking about this today because I was thinking how much I hated Avatar 1 and the fact that I'm looking forward to Avatar 2. And I think it sounds dumb, but I feel like I'm mature enough now to enjoy a dumber movie. Does that make sense? Like I'm now mature. I'm at a point in my life where I can happily understand that it's gonna rehash plots from other films. It's gonna be predictable. It's gonna have corny lines that annoy me, and that's fine. That's not what it's there for. I'm gonna go watch it in the cinema. I'm in no rush because it'll probably be in the cinemas for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just shut off my brain and turn my eyes up to 11 and just soak in the spectacle of it.
See, we discussed this the other day. I just flat out been like, nah, I can't be asked to see it simply because I hated Avatar.
And you see everything near it.
I just don't like it. But what I'll do is you'll go and see it, and if it's worth watching, I will watch it on your say. But I'm not gonna. I'm no way am I gonna even bother to like rush to book it.
Fair enough, and obviously I'll talk about it on this show we do.
Yeah.
When I've seen it, but I can predict pretty confidently. It's all you're gonna get is a much more fleshed out, informed version of what I've just predicted. That I'm gonna enjoy it for the spectacle, but it's gonna be dumb.
I might just give it a minute.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you when I see it.
Yeah. So what else is there? But
Oppenheimer trailer.
Oppenheimer, yeah.
Trailer didn't wow me, but not in a way of like I don't think it's going to be good. I just think maybe it's the kind of film, like it's not going to be an action film, you know that. So it's probably hard to cut a Christopher Nolan movie trailer when there's not a bunch of actiony bits to throw in the trailer.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm not worried in the slightest. I didn't expect it to be a super impressive trailer. I'm just excited to see a movie about. I find the nuclear bomb and the conception of it so interesting.
mm,
And I'm just excited to see that. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be informative. It's going to be really interesting. And it's going to play with ideas about mankind and power and becoming like gods and all that in a really cool way with an amazing cast. Hopefully a soundtrack that you can actually hear the dialogue over. Because he's got... You know the way Tony Scott had a thing in his later movies where he just wanted it to have a horrible grade and a really unusual editing style where it kind of nearly became unwatchable, but clearly he liked that.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan has that with sound in his films. He's got this thing where he's like, can we turn the bass up in the background so that you literally can't hear the dialogue? Like it's in your language, but you need subtitles to hear it.
Interstellar.
And clearly that sounds good to him for some reason. I don't know why.
Interstellar's a good example because it's like they're talking and it's like bum bum and I'm like what?
But what was the last one?
I never saw that. You know,
Tenet. Tenet. It's not his best movie by a long shot, but if you watch it with subtitles, you'll like it. You'll really like it. I loved it. I watched it with subtitles, but you cannot understand what the fuck people are saying. But other than that, I'm buzzing for Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I think we shared on our Instagram channel a few posts about the stills from it. It just looked pretty cool, like with obviously Cillian Murphy in the main role. And as you said, it's just a very interesting subject. And the whole fact that he's recreated the explosion without any CGI at all, I mean, that's enough just to see it in itself. So, so I'm looking forward to that.
You gotta love Christopher Nolan. Like, it's the classic thing where, because he's been around for a while and he's not flavour of the month anymore, people are only a lot of people are only really focusing on his fair and true flaws, but he's amazing. Like he just, even like for when his films aren't that good, for what he represents, where he wants to record on film, he doesn't want to go to digital, he wants to do things with physical, big practical effects. He wants, the way in this day and age now with Netflix movies and Disney Plus movies where they feel like big budget fucking internet web shows, like web episodes and the web series that were kind of around in the early noughties, like the Mortal Kombat famous one from back in the day. That cheap shit that just weren't TV shows, they were cheap. They feel like huge budget versions of them, and they don't feel like movies. And whenever Nolan's one of those guys where when he gets down to make a film, he makes a fucking film. It is an event. It has its own beautiful score. The script has been worked on for years. The detail into the film and every shot and everything, and it's meant to be seen on the big screen. It's a film, and it's brilliant. I love it. Like, he's a legend.
Yeah, I admire him for the diversity of his catalogue, like from going from like Memento to the Batman trilogy to Inception, all that stuff. So you got to praise him. But what is it? I'll change the subject. What is this with like? I don't understand this streaming, and I'm looking at Disney Plus here because I'm seeing films drop that I have just seen in the cinema a month ago. Like Banshees is on it now.
Yeah.
Of Inisherin. That Amsterdam, do not watch it. It's up to you. I saw that a month ago. It's on there, and it's like, what's the point of going to cinema then?
Well, first of all, for me, like that is most people's take. But first of all, it's like, well, the cinema's better. You are fully enclosed.
Yeah.
You're not going to look at your phone unless you're a dick.
True. Yeah.
And it's huge, and the screen is better, and the sound is better, unless you're going to a shitty cinema. I mean, it makes sense. Well, put it this way: like back in the day, it made sense that they would. I don't know why, but it makes sense that they could say the film will release in America this date, and then 3 months later, it will release in Europe. Now you have to release it everywhere worldwide at once because it's going to be online to steal.
Yeah.
Like you'll go to the cinema if it's out that week. You might still steal it. Some people are always going to still steal it online. Me being one of them for some movies. But like if you have to wait 3 months, you're definitely nicking it. So things all have to come out at once, and then once they're not out anymore, like there's no DVD coming out, or most people aren't going to buy the DVD.
True.
So why would you wait?
No, I guess I was just saying it out of like.
I do get you. I get where you're coming from.
I was just taken aback of how quickly it was there. Like, do you know when it comes up new releases, and it came up Amsterdam and Banshees, and I was like, wow, they've moved very quickly. Like,
see, it's a shame because
to get it on there
back in the day, because films are so expensive now, and there's so many other options for media content, and there's also just you can steal the film potentially anyway. A film like say The Lighthouse back in the day, if films were cheaper and it was back in the day, that is a film that could have bombed out, but also could have easily started to build up a following, and cinemas would have reported back to the distributors, don't pull it, people are starting to show up, word of mouth's getting out there. And you had that kind of patience for films. 2001: A Space Odyssey was like that. It did terrible for the first couple of weeks, and the distributors and the studio was going to pull it, and then cinemas en masse started saying, no, we're noticing, a lot of kids are starting to come in, and like kids were coming in and doing LSD and watching it, and other people, word of mouth was getting out there, and it became a thing. Now, if a movie's not making money in a week, then unless you're unless you're making shitloads of money. There's some Marvel horse shit that's ready to come in and fill every screen the next week, because about 9 of those come out a year. So there's not going to be any patience, especially when you can just shove it onto streaming and charge a good bit. But maybe some people are going to do it.
there seems to be fair, at that point of Marvel, I think the director came out and was basically like, it's ruining cinema. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, a few have come out.
Maybe Tarantino, I think.
Yeah, Scorsese said some shit about it as well, and it's all true. It is horseshit. It is. He said they're more like amusement rides at a theme park.
Yeah, that's what the one I was referring to.
And there's nothing wrong with it because that exists and that people clearly enjoy it. I just wish there was still space for all the rest of it.
Yeah, another film I'm looking forward to seeing. I didn't actually realise that this was happening. Did you realise that Joaquin Phoenix was doing a Napoleon film?
I was going to say, you reminded me when you talked about Joaquin Phoenix earlier, doing a Napoleon film.
No idea.
With Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Literally. That's going to be banging.
Until I was doing a bit of research and stuff, obviously posted it on the Instagram because he was doing an interview because Joaquin Phoenix got voted as Empire done like greatest actors of all time, and he was in there somewhere, which he would be. And then he was talking about how he loves him on set, best actor he's worked with. But I didn't even realise that it was happening.
No.
And I was like, fucking hell, this could be incredible.
I feel like we've moved in the past couple of years into as much as we were just complaining about stuff, I feel like we have moved into a low-key great era for films. Like, there's been a lot of good films. I just feel, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I've just been looking at films more again, going to the cinema more again, but I feel like there's been a load of great films in the past couple of years. And it feels like there's a lot of great films coming out.
Well, Tarantino came out and said, speaking of Tarantino, he thinks this is the worst era of film ever.
Yeah, it probably is in a lot of ways.
But there's still some good ones
on what I
coming
just
out.
said.
No, yeah.
Like, if I actually... Well, the thing is, do you know what immediately will happen? If we go year by year the past couple of years and say, this good film, and then if we're like, let's compare that to like 99 or 2004 or 98 or whatever, you'll be like, oh my God, look how many great films came out that year.
You say that, Declan, like, we just spoke about Oppenheimer, Napoleon, which should be... I'm worried that it might only be streaming on Apple TV, though. There's some weird thing where that was the studio who made it, so surely they'll show it in the cinema.
A lot of the time the streamers will want, for films like that where it's like, like when Netflix managed to convince Scorsese to make The Irishman, or the other way around, they actually said, we'll pay for this 4-hour movie that won't make any money. They'll show it in cinemas a little bit, enough to, be eligible for like the Oscars and stuff, because they want that credibility and the opportunity of being nominated or winning. So I guarantee if they've bagged Ridley Scott for a film, they're not going to lose out on the opportunity. And Joaquin Phoenix as the star for a big swords and sandals sort of epic, then they're not going to miss out on the opportunity of getting some awards for that. So it will hit cinemas, but I wouldn't expect it to be like in 4 screens 10 times a day in your local Cineworld. It will be out for a short period in like your art houses, your everymans.
It'll be kind of like that blonde, that Marilyn Monroe one.
Oh shit, yeah, I missed that as well.
I need to check that because it did come in the cinema, but it dropped on Netflix at the same time.
Great director as well. Last one I want to talk about is Barbie. I'm excited about this.
I was about to bring it up because I was about to say, we just discussed Oppenheimer about the era of filmmaking. We discussed Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's next one, Ridley Scott, Napoleon. It's fucking Barbie coming out.
Have you seen the trailer where it's taking the piss out of 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Like, obviously none of that footage will make it into the film except for the clips towards the end. I feel like that was a showcase advert, which is kind of funny because it's kind of like, when you have adverts for promos for a game and they have no in-game footage.
Oh yeah.
Part of you's like, that's stupid because I want to see what the game's like. But if it sells you on the tone of the movie, it makes sense. And you don't see many showcase promos for films anymore where they filmed specialized footage just for the trailer.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming this is. But I thought that was great because that sells you on, I hope it at least is selling you on the tone they're going for. And the things I've heard about the script, like I heard, like no one comes out and says, oh, my new movie's going to be awful. But it's kind of like, in football where no one says, oh, the manager's shit, but they don't have to come out with glowing praise of it.
Yeah.
Either. It's the same thing with this film where I was hearing like a lot of people like Ryan Gosling and the director and some of the other people, talent working on it, just saying it was such a funny, good, clever script.
Okay, that's good.
And so, I'm not sure, but the vibe I'm getting that what they're going for is, did you ever see the Brady Bunch movie?
Yeah.
Where it's taking what they acted like in the series back in the day, transporting it to the modern world. So everyone in the world is the straight man in a comedy routine. They're absurd, but they're just being themselves, and that's the gag of the film.
Oh, right.
I feel like maybe it's not going to be exactly like that, but it's going to be that sort of movie. Like, it's going to be taking the piss affectionately out of the whole world and everything about it. And the fact that you see the level of talent that's signed up to it and the look of it and stuff, I think it's going to be great. Like, I've got a really, really good feeling about it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I got one last one myself, and I'm not going to bother to pronounce the name because I can't pronounce it. But, or the director's name, but it's the director of Birdman and The Revenant's latest film.
Oh, yeah. What is his name?
Alexandro.
Quandro.
Yeah.
Something like
that. But that's, seen the trailer.
Something where you have to roll your R.
Yeah. Seen the trailer for it. It looks visually beautiful.
What's it about?
I don't actually know.
What does it look like?
It just looks like a very surreal, trippy film.
Who's in it? You've come with no details.
No
whatsoever.
details. That's a
You
good
can't
point.
even say his name.
But from the trailer, it just looks like a visually like mind-bending kind of film where they're all like jumping and like spinning around.
Right, well, on that bombshell of zero details, we'll have a look into that, find out for next week, and let you know if that film looks, as Phil describes it, really trippy with people jumping around.
I should be the next Mark Commode. Do you remember in that Bo Selector, it was Jonathan Ross?
No.
Because he used to review films,
yeah.
and he'd just have like 3 eggs, and he'd go, "I'll give this one weg," and he'd hit it with a wooden spoon.
Was the shit.
But I guess all that's left to say is, I think this will be the last episode before
Last of the year.
of the year. So happy Christmas, everyone, and
which means we fucked up because there's not going to be one coming out next week.
happy New Year.
So maybe it won't be the last episode, or maybe I'll just release this next week.
Yeah.
But you won't know that because it will be coming out today.
Yes.
So goodbye.
See you next year.
Yeah, take it easy. Or next week.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.